Welcome back. So in the last video we were able to create our Bastion host in our public subnet based on this architecture, and also able to create our key pair which we'll be using to access it. So in this particular section we'll be creating the web server in the private subnet, and then after the creation we would use the SSH key to access the Bastion host and the Bastion host to access this. So let's try to work on that, right? So let's go to the console. Okay, but before then, the naming convention for the EC2 instance is dev web server. So I'll just copy that, and then here we are already. You can click on launch instance. It's pretty much the same way we created this, but the difference is that this particular instance we are creating would be in the private subnet, not the public subnet. The Bastion host was in the public subnet, but this will be in the private subnet. All right, so let's give it a name. You can paste the name from the naming convention, and then the AMI will go with Amazon Linux. Yes, we go with 2023. We will toggle this to T2 micro, and then we are going to select it to micro. Let's switch a bit. It's not coming up. Okay. My connection. Okay, let me leave the screen. So yours should actually work. It's because of my connection currently. Okay, yeah, we are set now. So let me pick. This is T3 micro. I want to use T2 micro. So here is T2 micro. I click on it. 1 BCPU and 1 gig. So the pricing here 0.134 thereabouts. Shows our pricing per hour. So select your key pair. So if you are using a free tier account, T2 micro, you won't be charged. You will stay within the limit, right? Okay, select the dev EC2. Okay, oh yeah, this is where we need it. We are not going to select any key for this. I'm trying to think now. Okay, yes, you are not going to select any key for this, yes, because we are not accessing this directly. You're going to be accessing it through the Bastion host, right? So, and there's even another way to add the key. So let's just go on, leave this, come to network settings. This is very critical session. We'll pick our dev VPC, and then we choose a private subnet, private app subnet. Okay, so it's already chosen private app subnet 2, right? You could pick 2 or 1. There is anyone basically. So you can see that auto assign IP is disabled for this public IP. That was because in the VPC setting we did not, when it comes to the subnets, we only enabled auto assign IP for the 2 public subnets alone. So automatically the remaining private subnets would not have auto assign public IP. So if I check here, let me just check this private and see actions. Oh, I'm selecting 2 at the same time. Actions, edit subnet. You can see it's not being enabled. So that is why when we are creating our EC2 instance over here, it's disabled. But if you're creating the server at the public subnet, let's try something. Let me pick public subnet. You can see it's enabled. So that's what our setting does. But let's go back to what we're doing here, private, and then we would click on create security group. So this server is going to be in our private subnet. We don't we will not give it any public IP because we don't want it to be publicly accessible. So for the security group, we already created a security group for the web server, which is dev sg web, which will pick here, and then scroll down, leave the storage, go to advanced setting, and here when it comes to AIM instance profile, we created an AIM role earlier, which is this dev role S3 access, whereby we give this role full access to S3. So we are attaching this role to the web server such that we can migrate the data we have from the S3 into the web server. So we've been able to do that. This is very important. If you don't do this, you would not be able to run some command or basically migrate the data from S3 to EC2. So yeah, the other things can be left as default. Then we click on the launch instance. So the instance is launching already. Okay, so let's take a look at the instance and let's see the difference between the two instances. One is in the private, one is in the public. And after we are done with this, we would now go into the Bastion Host, and then on the Bastion Host we'll try to access the web server. Okay, as you can see, Bastion Host web server. So if I click on this web server, you see that it does not have a public IP. No public IP. Okay, it's still coming up, spending only private IP. So when we are in the Bastion, this is the IP we are going to use to come into the web server, which you are going to see shortly from now. So it's still coming up. Let me just refresh, and it should be up. Yep. So there are different. Let me use the word methods to connect to the server. But a very simple one I'll be using is using a particular tool called Terminal. It's quite very simple. You can, if you're using a Windows system, you can download it on it from the Microsoft Store. And then for macOS, you don't even need to, because your macOS already has a terminal, so you don't need to do anything. So over here, let's do something. There are a few things that we need to do. Let me copy the public IP because that's where we are going to. Let me bring this down, and then yeah, this is the terminal I'm talking about. Yeah. Let me open a new one. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So best practice open to to PowerShell. If you can see, I have quite a number of terminals, but PowerShell is kind of best for Windows. So if I'm going to SSH into this now, let me take a look at something very quickly. I think there's a file that I'm going to be needing. There's a file I'm going to be needing over here. Open this. I'm going to be needing, okay. Come to project asset here. I'm going to need a file, and that file is here. So there's a mark there for terminal, right? So I'm using Windows, so I'm going to open this and this command. Right, I'm going to open this with you can open it as text, you can open it as VS Code. I open it in VS Code, right, because we're definitely using VS Code for many of the things that we'll be doing. So that is opening, so that there are some commands that we need to use. Okay, so here is the command, as you can see. So basically there's a command to SSH into your EC2 in the public subnet using PowerShell. The one for Mac is also there. So in this place now, what it tells us is that SSH-I means we want to use our key, and this is the path to the key, the location of the key, in your computer in this case, and then EC2 user. So by default, any Amazon Linux operating system, their default user is EC2 user. If you were to create an Ubuntu OS, the default user will be Ubuntu, right? So it differs based on the operating system, and then at the public IPv4 of the web of in this case of the Bastion host, right? So just a minute. There are a few things that we need to do here. All right, yes, this is where we're going to come to. Yeah, so we need to check if SSH agent is running. That's the first thing. So to check that, just copy. Okay, at this point I need to split my screen. Yeah, so you can check that. Just come to sorry, yeah, and click enter. You would see that for mine is running, right? So if yours, okay, can you see it's running? So if yours is not running, the way to go about it is, let's see, is this second command. If your SSH is not running, set it to automatic. You can use this command, but to be able to run this command, you have to open PowerShell as administrator, right? So instead of me opening PowerShell normally, you would just open it as an administrator, right? So as an admin, because you need to run this command as admin, right? So let me see if I can show that. So okay, just a minute. Encountering some issues here. Let me just navigate to PowerShell over here. Okay, can you see PowerShell? And then we open as PowerShell and PowerPoint. So this is what we have here. We open it as administrator. So if you right click over here, you can open it as an administrator. Can you see that? Run as administrator. And then when you open it, you can now run this command. This command would set your SSH